Good morning, PT on Ice. It is Monday. Welcome to Monday with Pop. I'm Mike Eisenhart, lead faculty for the Prevention and Health Promotion area within ICE. And I apologize, a little off my time this morning. Normally 8:30 sharp, but had a busy morning and had to be out the door early and meet with some clients. So sometimes those things unfortunately conflict. So we're here now. Figured I'd jump in. I know that'll throw off some folks' schedules, so probably won't have any visitors with me this morning, but wanted to make sure we took some time and got the message across. So I'm going to start the clock as I normally do, 15 minutes, and we're off. So I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of why are you here, and you know, I think it's a good time of year to do that. I think that you know, for many reasons. Obviously, we get near the end of the calendar year, and people often spend some time reflecting and thinking about kind of planning into the future. We also, you know, sort of have, in addition to the end of the year for us, for our purposes, we just finished up our CERT cohort last night. So that's a good time for me to always sort of sit back and reflect. That was our Unit 6 had gotten pushed off a week because I had some travel woes, and then we finished that up last night. So great time with that group and had them kind of bolt down some of their pitches and things. So that was fun. And just because in general, you know, we're going into the new year, right? So people take time often to kind of plan out, and it's like a time of kind of refreshing and hope, and you know, like this is the year I'm going to make a health change maybe, and lots of different things. So I just thought now would be a good time to kind of set that up. And so, why are you here? To me, gets a little bit down into purpose and meaning. And it, you know, the goal, of course, for me is trying to help us all sort of stop and think about, you know, why are you in the space that you're in? And professionally, what I mean by that is, you know, if you're a physical therapist, which I know most of the folks who watch this and listen to this are PTs, but if you're a conservative care professional, PT, OT, you know, a physician, you know, who's really trying to focus on lifestyle medicine, direct primary care, nurse, you know, you name it. If you're in that space, you know, it's kind of like asking, like, why do you exist in that space? Like what is your calling here? And the reason why I ask that is because I've been seeing a lot lately about physicians specifically talking about kind of their calling. So those who have followed along for a while know that I'm a fan of a guy by the name of Dave Chase, and he's a writer. He was a sort of an entrepreneur, has been involved in tech. But now he kind of writes articles. Had written for Forbes for a while. I'm not sure if he's just writing independently now, but you know, he posts a lot of information. He's very much involved in trying to change employer-based healthcare and really trying to pull the wool back a little bit on some of the not so wonderful things that are happening in healthcare. And so I'm a fan. I'm a fan of his approach, and I think he has a really nice voice in this space. And so I've been seeing some posts lately from him, and he's got me thinking. And he keeps sort of alluding to the fact that physicians are leaving traditional care and often starting direct primary care models because they have a calling, right? And their calling is kind of as a healer. Their calling is as someone who wanted to make a difference in people's lives, not someone who wanted to, you know, push paperwork and you know, get into the rabbit hole of you know, electronic health records and, you know, you name it, but that they really wanted to deal with people. They really wanted to help people thrive. They wanted to help people sort of survive the risks they face and help people heal. And I think that there's really something there. I think there's something that we all need to spend some time kind of wondering about and asking ourselves. And so I started to do that a little bit this weekend and really try to spend some time thinking about like what is for the greater good, like what is the calling that we often are hearing, and are we hearing it loud enough to do the right thing despite the stressors that we face? So one of the biggest ones that we face, and I've mentioned this in the past, I talked about it a little bit last week, the idea that we don't have the margins in our world, right? We don't have, you know, these like high golden era payments that, you know, tons of money laying around, and like we can play golf on Fridays and like, you know, do all this wonderful, like it sounded like it could be great. You know, I work hard for a couple of days and, you know, and then I take a day off because I'm all stressed out. No, we're sort of running all the time. And it really drove the point home for me last night on the cohort when, you know, Jessica on the cohort asked, do you work all day every day, or do you have specific time for family, or do you, like make time that you're like kind of off the clock entirely, or do you just sort of stay on all the time? And it made me think about it because I think it's an important question. And my answer was I'm kind of on the clock all the time. Like I don't really voluntarily shut down ever, although I do sort of shut off, at a certain point at night and I go to sleep. But like when I'm awake during waking hours, like I try to be available. I try to be available to everyone, to my family, to my friends, to my clients, to the people that we serve, to my business associates. I really, that's an important thing to me. I feel like, my calling is to serve, is to be available and to serve the people who I'm involved with. And I think that it's kind of an important thing. So what I wanted to do was sort of ask you, and you can respond if you're watching live, and you certainly don't have to, but if nothing else, maybe taking the time. Because the more time I spend with people, the more I think Dave Chase is right. I think that the therapists that we connect with and the therapists who we're often working with, whether it be in the courses or whether it be, sort of consulting with, or whether it be who are just kind of like in general colleagues, it's the ones who kind of keep coming back are the ones who are saying things like, I don't know why. I don't know why I work so hard at this, or I want to work so hard at this. It's in me somehow. It's like part of what I do, and it brings me joy, or it brings me, happiness to help people. And I think that's like just who I am. It's what's important to me. So that framework I think is important because unfortunately I think we're in for some real turbulence. I think overall what you're seeing and what the trend is very clear is that we've got some rocky times ahead of us in healthcare. And the more I look at it, the more I think that's the case. The rocky times ahead of us are the fact that the system wants to change to reward outcomes and outputs. The system wants to reward value, but the payment system hasn't kept up with that. And so because of that, we're in this kind of like lull. We're in this sort of dead spot where we're all trying to do what we know is right. We're trying to answer our call to help people and to serve, but on the flip side, we know there isn't excessive margin and we have to make ends meet. So there's kind of like this really tough sort of space. And so what that gets me to is then the follow-up question of, is it enough of a calling? Like, is your calling deep enough that you are willing to slog it out, that you are willing to grind for the long term? That's been one of the greatest observations that I've seen. And there's all sorts of like, quotes and books and things you can find written on this. The idea that the successful entrepreneur is the one who's sort of the last person standing. Like if you're just willing to stick it out longest, you'll eventually be successful because everyone else will have failed. Like everyone else will have given up. They'll have thrown their hands up and said, can't be done. Like enough is enough. And the question I have is the health of society, is the health of America, if you're watching this from the States, is that enough? Is it enough of a calling that you're willing to stick it out on the long term, even if it means little bits of progress on a regular basis, and no guarantee of success? Like, that's a really hard question. And it's one that I'm not sure the answer is yes for everybody. I see this kind of trend almost where people are sort of like, I want to do it if the money's good. I want to do it if I can get paid. But I'm not sure I want to do it if I can't. And I guess there's a challenge there. And it's not, please don't get me wrong, this is not me like standing on Mount High. Like I certainly have that conversation regularly, like is this really worth it? And that's what really motivation comes down to. Like there's some pretty good authors who have looked at this and said, really, if you want people to do something that's really challenging, you have to ask, one, is it doable? And two, is it worth it? The is it doable part, we know the answer. Like that is conclusive. It can't be more clear that people can change their health and that they don't need medications and surgeries to do so. Like we know that conservative-based approaches, lifestyle-heavy approaches, environmental changes, those kinds of like make it easier to be healthy, those changes work. Like beyond the shadow of a doubt, they work. You can't deny it. The research and every other way we look at it, like they work. Okay, so it's doable. The question is it worth it? And I think that gets down to, why are you here? So I guess I just wanted to kind of float that out there. and sort of address it, because I think that's where, I'm hoping to go. Like 2019 resolutions, like if you have a resolution, if you buy into that, I don't know that I buy into it in the sense of like a hard resolution, but I do buy into the idea of setting sort of like, setting the course for the year and then trying to point the ship in that direction. And for me, it's really about bring the answer of, is it worth it to everyone? Healthcare providers, society at large, directly to consumers, to businesses, to communities, to everyone. And whether you're doing that in the clinic, whether you're doing that patient by patient, client by client, or whether you're doing that sort of in the employer space and being able to hit, 25 people all at once, like I did this morning, and then have meaningful conversations after, whether that be the community and you're doing this kind of like just at large, and who knows what that will look like. And that's kind of like the final piece in my 4 minutes. The final piece is, if you're committed to it, if it's worth it to you, like if your calling is to change the health of your town, your community, your family, your colleagues, your coworkers, your clients, like whatever, if your calling is to change the trajectory of their health, and that's like something that burns deeply inside you, are you so committed to it that you're willing to do it differently? Like that that you're willing to say, look, I don't know how it's going to look at the end. Like my preconceived notions of how I think this is going to go down, like I throw that out the window, because ultimately it's about the outcome. I live to get to the outcome. And I don't know. Like I don't know if we're all there yet. And I find a lot with physical therapists, they're not. Like the minute we say, are you going to be ready to abandon traditional care if that's what you have to do, if it helps you achieve your goal? Are you willing to do something completely different if it's going to help you achieve your goal? Or are you just committed to doing the thing that you do? Like, I don't know the answer. So I guess that's what I wanted to pose the question. And I guess that's why I labeled it that today. Because if you're willing to say, listen, it's not really about the how. Like, I'm not committed to how I get there. I'm committed to getting there. And the why. I'm committed because like it's my calling. It's why I exist on this planet. And if you don't have one of those, if you haven't figured that out yet, like I hope you'll spend some time doing that. This is the greatest time of year to do it. Kind of preparing for the end of the year, preparing for the holiday season. Like it's a great time of year. It's a busy time of year. It's chaotic in many times, but if you can carve out like 5 minutes a day. I do it oftentimes when I'm driving, but if you can carve out 5 minutes a day, just ask yourself, like, why am I really here? What is my calling? And am I taking steps to get closer to that? And if I am, am I willing to abandon the plan that I think I have for the plan that will actually get me there? And it's not an easy answer. It's not an easy answer by a long shot. All right, so that's all I got for today. I'm leaving you 2 minutes early. Hey RJ, I see you sign on. I think it's your birthday today, man. I thought I saw something pop up say it's RJ's birthday. So in addition to asking yourself why are you here, make sure you hum RJ a little birthday tune. I think he's like 23 today. So have a great rest of the week. I mean, I think you can live up to the standard that I try to set every week by asking you to make it count. I think that this is the easiest one to do that on. To just take the time, to take 5 minutes and think about it, and ask yourself that. And if you are, like if it's worth it to you, like if changing the trajectory of health for the people around you, for the individuals you serve, is truly a deep burning calling, if it is, I hope you'll connect. I hope you'll connect with, whether you do it with the courses, the live course starting up in January, online live course starting up in January, or you're doing it through just kind of beginning to be in the conversation or getting involved in APHPT. Bottom line is, if you're willing to do that and you're willing to kind of give up the control over how you do it, you might be surprised that you actually do. All right, it's only Monday. Have a great Monday. Have a great Monday. It's a good time of year. Great time to think, great time to plan, great time to get some perspective. Make it count.